Hi, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful festive season and you are ready to start your 2021, and hopefully it's going to happen with a bang. And today I'm here with Tsveti to kind of explore what the Saturn Uranus square, which is going to be following us through in the entire year, as well as in 2022, it will be quite prominent. So this transit happens every 14 years, and it usually brings recession and changes in economics. And basically, Saturn and Uranus has got this 45-year Synodic Cycle. And if someone is not aware of what Synodic Cycle is, then I'm going to shed some light on that a little bit later on. But how are you doing, Tsveti? Did you have a nice Christmas?
Hi everyone. Hi, Viktor. Well, yes, indeed, I did. It was quite a calm period. I managed to get some sleep finally and like to relax and focus on the things I really wanted to do, not I had to do.
That's what I
So
did as well. Pisces needs a little bit of a sleep, don't they?
a lot actually. So yeah, I hope I managed to recharge my batteries for the forthcoming year because Saturn Uranus, they promise they will not be leaving us in peace, definitely. This
Yeah,
will
we're
be
going to
fun.
have some shocking moments in 2021 as well. But overall, I believe this is a lot easier year. By
Yes.
the way, if you would like to have a reading with us, to have a look at your personal chart, then you will be able to find the links below how to contact us. But let's get started. So, as I mentioned, Saturn and Uranus has got this 45-year cycle. So because Saturn is the faster moving planet, eventually there is always a conjunction happening between them two. And then 45 years later, there is going to be another conjunction. And between that 45 year, there is always some type of major aspect, which is very much related to the sun and the moon phases. So if someone is not aware of what synodic cycle means, then basically in short, um, there is 8 phases of the sun and the moon. So it starts with a conjunction, and then it becomes eventually a first square, and then an opposition, and so forth. So this is exactly what we can do with each of the planets. And it's quite wise to do that because we can gain a lot more information about ourselves as well as it makes our life a little bit easier when we are ready to predict something. So the very last conjunction between Saturn and Uranus happened in 1988 on 29 degree of Sagittarius, and that was on the 12th of February. And then 1999, somewhere in July and November, and in 2000 as well, we had a waxing square. And basically the waxing means that it's from the conjunction to the opposition period. The moon is going to be growing. So therefore, Saturn was growing the distance between himself and Uranus as well. And then eventually we had an opposition in 2008. And now we are in a waning square. And the waning is all about shrinking. So the distance between Saturn and Uranus is shrinking. And eventually at one point, they are going to be forming a conjunction again. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, Saturn and Uranus cycle is very much about recession and changes in economics. Saturn is all about the structure, Uranus is all about shaking things up a little bit. So, Tsveti, how do you feel about this very last conjunction we had in 1988?
Well, it was quite a big restructuring going on there, and it was the start of a whole process actually, because this is when Mikhail Gorbachev actually became the head of the Soviet Union. And within a year or two, actually, it was the fall of the Soviet Union, and many countries declared independence. The whole, geographically, even the whole world changed. Many countries emerging, the iron. How was it called? The Iron Curtain fell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so former Soviet countries, Soviet Union countries became open to the world, and it was a really great change in the world. So,
Do you
yeah.
expect something similar this time around as well?
Well, maybe during the next conjunction, I assume, because this is the closing square now. It will be closing the processes from back then. And actually, when the next conjunction comes, I assume that these processes will have started already. So this closing square here could start processes like, I don't know. When I think of the Soviet Union, maybe because it's Union again, but it reminds me of the European Union. So maybe something with the European Union changes, and we also watched Brexit on the very on the day of Saturn Jupiter conjunction. I think it was when they declared the pact was signed and they closed the deal. So who knows, maybe something happens to the European Union. If you looked into it in greater detail, maybe you can say.
I agree with you because even the European Union is going to have its Saturn return as well. And it's going to be happening somewhere in a couple of years' time. So I do believe there is going to be a major restructuring going on with some sudden surprises. I'm guessing a couple of countries will leave the EU as well, following England. Because the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction happened on a fixed star called Altair. And that is all about boldness. And now Uranus is coming around, shaking things up. And I think it's like an electrifying, electrocuting energy. And more countries will follow that step, believing that the independence is going to be extremely important. Let's not forget how prominent Aquarius is this year. So, by the way, the Saturn Uranus square is the very first one going to be happening on the 17th of February on 7 degrees. Then the next one is going to be on 14th of June on 13 degree. And then the last one is on 24th of December on 11 degree. But I'm going to put the dates on top of the screen as well, so you will be able to mark them down in your diary. Yeah, so I do believe something is definitely in the air. And when we look at the last conjunction, what we had in 1988-89, well, that was mainly about the medium and the mass communication. It happened on 29 degree of Sagittarius, which is, by the way, a karmic degree. So somehow it was talking about a closure. The very previous conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter happened in 1942-ish. So it was kind of a closure of the world wars and basically a kind of a restructuring happened, and new cycles were introduced for us. But I believe this was more about the mass communication. So this generation really grew up with some technological advancements and interactive learning tools, and it was just enough to push a button on a machine, and we could start like voice activating things, and even the laptops or the computers were already around, but the mobile phones really started living its era once the Saturn-Uranus conjunction took place. Apart from the Soviet Union fall or collapse, we also had Iran and Iraq war ended, and we also had the first woman head of a government of an Islam-dominated state. Do you think that there is a chance for revolutionizing the government and having maybe a lady on the throne of governments?
Yes, I think so. I think that female energy will be rising more and more, and maybe this will also be one of the themes, actually, which will be evolving in front of us. And also, especially viewing the situation in the United States, I am not very much into political stuff, to be honest, but just watching Biden and Donald Trump's rivalry and the elections, and many people saying that Kamala, which is behind Biden, she will be actually leading at one point. They expect it.
I
So
do
who
believe
knows? Maybe this is a potential coming here.
I do believe that, but I also believe that America might fall into kind of states and so forth, because the Soviet Union. So basically, the Synodic cycles are all about history, and you always need to go back in time a little bit to see what happened, and it's like the history repeats itself. So something similar we can expect here as well, but of course on a higher manifestation level, or the themes are very similar, just the surroundings gonna be a little bit different. Also, we had the first AIDS Day, which was held in 1988 on the 1st of December. So another thing which I'm expecting to see is maybe they will be finding a cure for AIDS, or yeah, I think it's going to be a cure.
Yeah, it could be cancer as well.
And cancer as well, absolutely, absolutely. And then we had the full phase happening, which is basically the opposition, and that was between 2008 and 2009.
It was quite a recession. It was quite an economic recession, indeed.
Exactly.
And, yeah, we had quite a hit that time, and people had to revert back because the world economy actually collapsed at that time. So it just continued the trend, indeed. And we had to restructure. Lots of businesses had to restructure and to find other ways to contribute to the economy. So yeah, it was quite difficult times. But Uranus usually, this is the nature of Uranus, actually, to challenge the status quo, and how through crisis and suddenly, unexpectedly. So during the opposition time in 2008, this great recession was like almost expected.
Exactly. And the very next economic crisis, I think it will happen in 2027, 28 as well. And that's because of the Saturn Uranian energy, as well as the nodal energies, which will influence the world massively. And I don't wish to scare anyone, but I do believe that that's going to be a very significant period in our life. Now, the Saturn Uranus conjunction has already started in 2020, somewhere in March, and we know what happened. We know that food chains had to close down. There was not enough food for a while. The agriculture has started massively changing. And I do believe that this is going to be, that was just the beginning. So I do believe that the agriculture is going to massively change, in the sense that probably people are going to be watching what they buy, where they go. I'm even expecting that some of the bigger companies fail, and fail because there will be providers to these big companies like food chains who won't be able to provide as much food anymore as the demand is. And therefore, and because Taurus is very much about financial crisis, I do believe that those people won't be able to pay their debts, and therefore it's going to be causing some of the bigger companies to kind of restructure their businesses, to start something different. But at the same time, I do see that the middle class people can actually rise. These mid businesses, the self-employment is going to start thriving a lot more.
Yes, and actually this working from home that we see so much lately because of this COVID, I think that companies will come to realize more and more, and there were a few researches made throughout the world, in different places in the world, showing that actually companies will be able to save quite a lot if they send the people to work from home, and like releasing a bit on the control, like represented by Saturn, because Saturn is the control, keeping control over who does what, when, keeping time, working from 9 to 5 job. Now everybody will be free to work whenever they are available, because there will be so many tasks to be completing, like multitasking, homeschooling, and all those stuff, you know, being at home, but you will be somehow globalized because working internationally suggests that you will be working in different time zones. So your working time could be like from 8 to 10 in the morning, then having some personal stuff done. It will be, you know, quite flexible, I think. And Uranus already challenged these structures. And because the internet actually, I think it came, the World Wide Web actually was launched in 1991 when Saturn was again in Aquarius. So actually this position of Saturn in Aquarius now will probably promote it even more. And we will be using it more and more. And there is something very interesting here, that Saturn and Uranus are actually both co-ruling Aquarius. So we see a square, this is true, and it's a tensed aspect. There will be some definitely challenges, big challenges, recession, economic challenges, and because Taurus also rules food, maybe the natural resources will be limited. We will be taking care more and more. We will be challenged to take care more and more of the planet, of the ecological balance in the planet, and people will become more and more conscious. If they don't do this, what will happen? Because the square aspect will be showing this, and they will be asked to really act upon it. And maybe this limitation of staying home, not traveling so much, we were able to see during over the last year what a beautiful effect it had on the planet. So I think this is quite a challenge presented by Uranus in Taurus, because Taurus is all about Earth as well, and the Earth's resources. And maybe we'll be focusing more. We will come to focus more and more as humanity on alternative resources for electricity, for traveling, something which is much more in line and in balance with nature. Maybe we will build some kind of communities where we can grow our own food, because this will be clean and good for the bodies as well. Taurus also rules the body, what we eat, and yeah, maybe kind of bio agriculture will surge as well. And there were also some research. There was some research done on this type of, I think they call them Zika viruses, coming from the not Zika but Zoo, like coming from the animals, transferring to people, to humanity. And actually they say, they predict that if we don't really pay attention to how we keep the environment clean, then more and more will be coming to us. So humanity, I think it's a huge topic. Humanity is being asked, even not asked already, it's being forced to really look at the situation and make some moves which will be related to environmental conservation.
Absolutely. And you know, Saturn is all about the old system, and Uranus is all about the futuristic approach. So Uranus is kind of an awakener who says that the old system is not working anymore, so it kind of needs to be shattered. And because, as I said at the beginning, we've got so much of an Aquarian flavor this year, and not just because of Saturn and Uranus square, but we're gonna have like 5 planets in the sign of Aquarius as well in February. And the very last time we had that was in 1961 and 62. So if we're not going to go into detail what 1961 and 62 brought for you, probably you can do some research, but we are going to see some repetitions around it. So, and yes, Aquarius is very much about the rebellion energy. It's the freedom, the individuality. I think people want to get their freedom back, and they are going to be, unfortunately, demonstrating and going on strikes and and fighting for their independence. By the way, the very last square what we had between Uranus and Saturn, just in that time, Uranus was in Aquarius and Saturn was in Taurus. Well, that was in 2000. And interestingly enough, we also had an economic recession back then as well.
Yes.
So these energies have been around for a while, and it's not new for anyone. But with this very last square, what's going to be taking place the very first time on the 17th of February is just going to get intensified.
Yes.
And we need to be just ready for it. So this is the year where people need to start thinking about, okay, do I need, for instance, a house in the countryside so that I can have a garden and then I can start making my own food? Because let's not forget, Taurus is all about storage. And Uranus is shattering basically that storage. And also Uranus is so much to do with weather conditions as well. And let's not forget the Saturn is the cold and dry energy. So I think one of the reasons why this year could be challenging is because of the weather conditions are going to be extremes.
Yes.
So some of those, crops and stuff like that won't survive. So therefore, we as humans, we need to come up with some new technological advancements to protect actually ourselves, to be able to eat something. So definitely the food industry is going to be massively impacted. And I do believe that the fast food industry will be majorly impacted by this Saturn-Uranus square, and unfortunately in a negative way, or fortunately, God knows, but people will connect to the nature a lot more. So if someone is thinking about what type of business to open, then something to do with land, agriculture, growing vegetables and stuff like that, definitely will be very prominent in the next 7 years.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, Uranus in Taurus could be talking about on a global level as well, because one of the biggest problems that is coming up in terms of health and humanity, it's being overweight, not moving enough, being far away from nature, being, not feeling the balance of nature, and like feeling totally separated from nature. All those processed foods and lack of nutrition. And this Uranus in Taurus is also here to change that, and with the square to Saturn, which is in Aquarius, of innovation, of science, and so on. What you say makes great sense as well in this relation. So anything which will be bringing, the ecological balance on the outside, on planet Earth, but also on the inside, in the microcosmos of the person. So the body is, a reflection of what is outside. So what is inside is outside. And
on one hand, I'm definitely happy because at the end of the day, Uranus, which rules any type of esoteric fields. So with that Taurian energy, it looks like it's going to get a shape and a form. People are going to be more inclined to probably dig into astrological perspectives. I do believe from a personal point of view, it's an exciting time as well, because whoever is going to study astrology, I think they're going to have a job in the next 20 years. People are going to visit us in order for them to gain more wisdom. Because at the end of the day, Aquarius is the higher mind, the higher octave of Mercury. Aquarius is like a genius, the higher intellect type of energy. And Uranus is there to kind of shatter your belief system over, that rigid pattern, or no, it's just the tangible which exists. I think people want to go a little bit more behind. So I think we also gonna gain information about different planets being discovered, or maybe the UFOs and stuff like that. Some information will be revealed. about those. And people are going to have a completely different perspective over what's old, what's new, what needs restructuring. These are going to be major questions.
Yeah, and also I don't know how it was in the Western world, but here in the former Soviet Union, I'm from a former Soviet Union country, people came to be more and more open to their spiritual development, spiritual growth, and it was like after the fall of the Iron Curtain, we came to have access to books, to everything which was forbidden before. And it's like the whole world is getting more and more excited about it. You know, it's getting more and more popular. People keep reading books on self-development, and it's like urging them to do it from the inside. It's like the whole metrics of humanity changed in a way. So I believe, because this happened more or less shortly after the conjunction in 1988, and people became more and more open to this. I believe that this square will be asking them even more to see where they are now, like a checkpoint, to see where they want to go. And it will be quite a tough decision indeed, because they will have to question the status quo, and they will have to rise against the authorities, against what Saturn represents, actually, against anything which is firm, grounded, and which is told by authorities that we should be doing. And here the question will come: do I want to do it? And do we want to do it as a community? Because it's Uranus, a collective planet. So as you mentioned before, there will definitely be probably some riots and people rising against the authorities and against countries and policies and anything that they will be forcing on them. So maybe this vaccine that is coming, maybe people will be arguing quite a lot. Like, there will be people who want to have the vaccine and will be pro, and others who will be contra. And if they try to force it onto people, like putting some kind of rules, if you don't have the vaccine, you can't go to have medical care, or you have to sign anything, then people will be rising against this, because this will be a limitation of their rights. So,
and there will be something like that for sure, because at the end of the day, Saturn is the government.
Yeah.
Uranus is the people. So a square between them two is a clashing energy, as well as Saturn is the obstacles and something to do with the rules. And Uranus is the planet of rebellion. So whatever type of energies the government is trying to come up with, people, Uranus, or a collective, let's call it that way, will kind of try to put, a stop to it. And it's interesting what you said about the spiritual awakening, which I do believe is very, very Uranus and Saturnian energy. In my opinion, if someone has got a Saturn-Uranus conjunction in their chart, actually those are a kind of a natural astrologers. And the reason being is because Saturn is able to see the fear, Saturn is able to see the past, and Uranus is the future. And astrology is one of those kind of science which actually looks at both. So as we do today, we went back in the past a little bit to see what were the trends 20, 30 years ago, and then what could be the possible trend for the future as well. So Saturn-Uranus conjunction, or any type of Saturn-Uranus aspect in your chart, could actually indicate that you can be a great astrologer. But Uranus is also the planet of storms, and Saturn is the calmness. So these two notions are in a friction as well. So how I kind of translated within myself what you said was that that Uranus wants you to come out of your comfort zone, Taurus, and wants to awaken you that you should not be sitting on your laurels. You should do something about your personal development to gain more and higher intelligence, because that is the one which is going to take you further. And because Uranus very much talks about your freedom, and Taurus is your needs. So the definition of needs will be definitely questioned in the next 1.5 years. So you need to ask yourself the question, what does it mean for you? What does freedom means for you? Is it that you have got a property, or is it that you have got a stable job, or you want to have a stable relationships? Because whatever your comfort zones are, all of them are going to get tested. Whatever your belief system about freedom is going to change massively.
Yeah, and actually Saturn has this quality to manifest what we actually expected, to manifest our inner expectations about, on a personal level, I mean, but also on a collective level. So Saturn will be showing us what on practice, materially, it will manifest what we were expecting to happen, and it will manifest our fears as well, so that we can see in real what it feels like and make another decision, you know.
Absolutely. And I think it's time for the humankind to start working towards their fears. I mean, against their fears, against their inner demons, because this is what holds us back. Exactly. And Uranus wants to kind of wake us up that your fears destroy everything, and you need to make that major change in your life if you want the world to get better. But what's more important, not what's more important, but what's more important probably for you is to make your life, your own life, as good as possible. On the positive note, I think new markets will appear on the horizon, as well as new workplaces. I think it's not just all doomy and gloomy with the Saturn Uranus energy, because as I said, probably there is going to be so much technological advancements coming up for us that people should be learning about IT a little bit more, because I think plenty of opportunities will open up for those experts.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. There will be some revolution in terms of IT, technology, science, especially because this stellium in February in Aquarius will be triggering so much indeed. And yeah.
Absolutely. You know, Taurus is also about the financial system. So what do you expect on a financial level?
On a financial level, I expect that money will be redistributed among other types of businesses, so to say, which will be more virtual in a way, because of this Aquarian energy, which will be so much with us. And Uranus will be making us face it, and maybe I forgot the word, the money will become more virtual as well. There will be a total shift in the banking systems. Everything will go more and more online, I think. And we will probably not be dealing with physical money so much.
Absolutely. I think there is going to be a digital currency. And by the way, in 2008 and 2009, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the Bitcoin was introduced, when Uranus and Saturn had an opposition going on. Well, last time when I was speaking about Bitcoin, actually, I received plenty of attack. I'm not going to change my mind, and I don't wish to say what people want to hear. I do believe that the Bitcoin system will actually collapse, or it's going to go through a major transformation in the upcoming 5-6 years. And talking about the financials, I think the stock market will be extremely unstable with the Uranian energy. Let's not forget that Uranus rules anything which is ups and downs. So the lows and the very highest moment as well. And the very last time when I said this, people said, "Oh, you are stupid." I even received emails on my personal account saying, "How do you dare saying that?"
Really?
But last year, the stock market, I think, closed down like 5, 6 times, which hasn't happened for a very long time. When they closed the doors for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And as I said, some of those signs we already saw in 2020 from March onwards. What is the Saturn and Uranus square is going to bring us? And you know, when we look at when Uranus was the very last time in the sign of Taurus, well, that was basically in the middle of a civil war. And I don't suggest there is going to be a war. I believe there won't be any, actually. I think there is already one, just it's not visible for us.
Yes.
We don't experience it as a war, but as I said, I think there is going to be a kind of a modern war, like protests. So I think it's unlikely that soldiers are going to be walking in the streets, but there will be citizens who will demonstrate, fighting for their rights. You know, I also mentioned that the first Saturn-Jupiter conjunction happened around that time when the kind of AIDS days started. So I do believe that such as like gay rights and stuff like that will be extremely important. Something to do with the genderism, something to do with forming little groups. So I wouldn't be shocked if, I don't know, there would be a group of people just, around their interest, forming kind of a community. So I think genderism is also going to be a major topic from 2021 onwards.
Yeah, exactly. And when you mentioned war, it can be, if we think of war, what war does to people, it actually creates tension and fear. And that's exactly what we're going through now. Because war actually, this is what endangers our physical existence, if we
Yeah.
think in larger terms. So practically what we are going through now is a kind of a war. Also on the internal level, we have to fight our fears, as you said, so that we can be free. That's the only way. We need to set free of our fears. And maybe, yeah, this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which started the year, Saturn meeting with Pluto, like we got in touch with our deepest fears, like Pluto brought them to the surface. So now when Saturn meets Uranus in a square, maybe we will be able to somehow rise and set them free so that we become free.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you see the vaccine situation? Because obviously this Saturn and Uranus square, I think it's going to be impacting the vaccine, the COVID situation as well.
I think that Saturn in Aquarius together with Jupiter, when the conjunction, it caused scientific progress, and the vaccine coming out right on the very close to the 21st of December has something to do with it, has a lot to do with it. And there are more than 2-3 vaccines already, I think, that were approved. But what I see around me, people get polarized. There are groups for and groups against it. Some claim it was not tested enough, and some claim it was all done for money, so they don't trust the government, and the government tries to push back. And I heard some news in countries where they were trying to force people to have the vaccine. And I think this will be quite a hot topic, hot potato this year. So people will be even more polarized, and maybe some side effects appearing more and more, or the vaccine proving to be stable and effective. So yeah, maybe at the end, in 2022, when the square actually doesn't have an orb anymore, as a result, we will have the best vaccine, the best cure, and the virus will be finally gone. That's what I expect. I expect that there will be riots and there will be people standing up against being forced to, against their own will to have the vaccine. And and the government's trying to push back more and more because, like kind of this, there will be definitely some turbulence around it.
This is the number one question I receive recently. When can we travel again? When does the COVID-19 end, and so forth? And just a couple of words about that. This COVID-19 was very much connected to Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. The meeting point in the sign of Capricorn. Now, Jupiter has moved into, because Jupiter is generally the planet of social gatherings, the larger groups, as well as something to do with your well-being. Now, thank God Jupiter has moved into the sign of Aquarius, where actually Jupiter feels a little bit better. But I would like to point out that it is still witnessed by Saturn, and it is still in a Saturnian ruled sign. And of course, Saturn is extremely strong.
Yes.
So, and also the very last time when Saturn and Jupiter met in Aquarius, it was only a short period of time. It was only 3 months. And in the previous cycle, it was only like 3 weeks. But this time around, actually, Jupiter and Saturn will spend together 9 months, apart from mid-May till the end of July, where Jupiter is going to be entering the sign of Pisces. Now, the good news is that somewhere around 13th of February till 17th of March, actually, I can imagine that some of the rules will get lifted up, some of those restrictions, because Jupiter will be entering its own term. And therefore, Jupiter has got a good 30% strength there. So I'm expecting some of those rules to kind of get lifted up, but not entirely getting anything better. I think further restrictions will be lifted up somewhere towards the end of May. And that's going to be due to the fact that Jupiter will be entering the sign of Pisces. But then in August, beginning of August, Jupiter will be coming back to the sign of Aquarius. And he is going to be witnessed again by Saturn. So maybe further restrictions are expected towards the end of the year. And because the Saturn Uranus square is actually lasting in the next 1.5 years, almost, let's say, every day, I believe that the real relief is actually going to be somewhere towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. And because Uranus rules travels, especially the space travels, but something to do with the sky and airplanes. Clearly, there is going to be some major restrictions about how we will be able to travel, probably something to do with travel documents and new ways of borders. Saturn rules borders. And I think that is also something people won't necessarily take too well.
Yeah, and if we relate this to the vaccine, maybe they will be asking you to be vaccinated before you are able to leave the country. And this could be another point of, another reason for people standing up for their rights. And the West Square will be actually in October 22, I think. Yeah,
that's right, October 22. Yeah,
and then I think it was on the 23rd of October when Saturn turns direct and they finally separate. So maybe this will be when the tension will finally be resolved and released a little bit, and things will never go back to the normal we used to know. Definitely.
What else do you expect from Saturn and Uranus square?
Well, except for restrictions, I actually I was thinking about the internet, and maybe there will be more kind of attacks, a kind of going through someone's private, invading someone's private information, you being followed by the government, through all the technology. Also, because artificial intelligence will be gaining speed more and more because of the whole age of Aquarius in general. But this square might be creating some kind of trade unions defending people's rights, and because the more we get mechanized and robotized, the less work there will be for humans, for living people. So people will be probably fighting to make a living. So hunger will make them, rise against this, and there will be probably some changes in this relation as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, on human rights.
I think definitely there is going to be plenty of new technological advancements, new discoveries. I'm expecting actually astrology somehow to start restructuring, and probably it's going to be allowed to study astrology in most countries at universities as well. I also believe that some of the countries will get a lot more prominent role from 2021, especially I'm thinking about China and Russia. Russia is an Aquarian country, but interestingly enough, the Vatican is also Aquarius and Gemini energies. And if we think about the nodes and the very strong Aquarian energy, what is going on, I do believe that the Vatican is going to be massively affected in 2021-22. And I do believe that maybe again, some media attention they will receive, of course, in a negative way because it's a square, which is kind of going to be causing plenty of shocks in the society. Maybe some very weird information is going to be revealed about them. But I do believe that, as I mentioned at the beginning, something to do with the weather conditions are going to be extreme. I'm expecting some natural catastrophes, especially volcano eruptions, earthquakes, or an extremely cold weather somewhere probably from about 9th of January till quite actually late as well. And unfortunately, it's going to have some casualties as well, very sadly.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, there was a very strong earthquake only recently in Croatia, I think. So, yeah, the earth is trying to somehow get used to the new energies and to
Yeah.
shake
Did
us.
you feel it in Bulgaria? Because we felt it in Hungary.
No, I personally didn't feel anything. I didn't notice, but I live in a house and we are on the ground practically. So even if it was felt somewhere higher, I wouldn't have felt it.
I also wish to say that I think some of the kingdoms will fall down, and maybe some of the states will be split into provinces as well. And maybe those states will have their own governments. As you said, I think the eating habits will be changing a lot more. So more organic food is going to be available and people are going to be supplying those. But as well as new home building techniques will be prominent, just trying to get rid of the changes in the environment and in the weather conditions. I do believe new social media channels will appear, and some of the old ones will absolutely vanish, or somehow there is going to be regulation around them, which makes their system extremely, difficult. I think the home businesses, the delivery truck business is also going to massively improve. Yeah. Do you expect maybe air crashes in 2021?
If we think about 9/11, when the opposition was, which actually, involved planes, and we know it,
Yeah.
then we can think of air crashes as well. And I think there was a huge air crash during one of the squares, not a part of this synodical cycle, another one, which was which took 600 victims. A
Yeah,
huge.
I think it happened outside of a bank. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I just can't remember the details, but it was during a Saturn Uranus square as well. So, and because Uranus rules airplanes, and Saturn is in an air sign, and they will be tensed, then it can be expected as well. Yeah. But
Yeah.
also because Saturn is in Aquarius, and Saturn and Uranus, as I mentioned before, they're co-ruled. They co-rule Aquarius. I somehow believe that whatever happens will be really the final end will be to achieve peace, better health, better awareness, and to somehow get the whole humankind on another level of consciousness, so that we are more aware, and we become better humans in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, the food industry is definitely going to get very much affected. And probably one of the ways the bigger companies will try to save money is to introduce robots. So
Yeah.
robots making the food, um, because these companies will try to save labor. And that is very much related to the fact that you said that they are going to try to increase taxes as well, because of a lot more self-employment going on. Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a very interesting time for us. The very good thing, in my opinion, what the Saturn and Uranus can bring for us is some of the remedies they will find for such things like cancer and AIDS.
Yes.
I think plenty of new jobs are on the horizon, but we will need the proper knowledge for it. And knowledge is definitely going to be something extremely important in the next couple of years. So anything to do with astrology, science, internet-based services, um, customer service, especially working from home, these are going to be majorly important for everyone, and these are going to be the fields people should be choosing, especially those youngsters who are, ahead of a career. I
Yes.
also believe that the flying cars will start rapidly introduced to the world, or the self-driving cars, or the space travel is gonna advance a lot, and we will get a lot more information of what is happening outside the world as well.
Yes, and definitely using probably alternative resources for movement. And because Saturn rules oil, gas, petrol, and stuff which is underground. So yeah, maybe something which will be really innovative and will be saving the environment, will not be having will not be polluting so much the world.
Yeah, and exactly, because Taurus is the natural resources, and
Yes.
obviously Uranus is telling us that it's not endless. So we need to wake up, and
Yeah.
therefore we might be expecting price increase in oil, gas, and so forth in 2021. Some of the countries will have more natural resources, and they might decide that, okay, we're going to cut cut the delivery to other countries because we cannot afford it.
Mm.
So the nations will have to kind of come together and create new ways for themselves, especially to protect their own nations. And I think some of the countries are already thinking like that.
Yes, and especially when the nodes move to Taurus and Scorpio over the next year, this will be even more highlighted,
Absolutely,
think.
absolutely.
To its peak, so to say.
Do you have anything else to share about Saturn and Uranus square?
Not really. I hope we managed to give also the positive side of things and not to leave the impression that it will be a horrible stuff going on this year only. But yeah, I think we mentioned everything. It was like the progress, the scientific revolution that we expect to happen, cures for cancer, for AIDS, and for other incurable diseases, and the vaccine probably proving to be good and safe. We'll see, but some technological progress coming. So restructuring of the business becoming more and more globalized, more virtual. So spending more time at home. So all these possibilities will come after attention, but they will be available along with all the tension, you know, with the fights and riots and possible natural calamities. And yeah.
Yeah, the cashless industry. So as we said, the digital currency, websites, and the online trading is going to be massively important. I would like just to give a kind of a closing statement, because when you said that maybe we were focusing a lot on the negative side of it, and hopefully the positives are also coming through as well. You know, at the end of the day, we talk about a square, but the square is always about calling for action. It is all about awakening you that there are different ways as well. And because there is so much Aquarian energy going on, you as an individual need to embrace the change. You need to go kind of with the flow, because sticking your guns to the old systems gonna hold you back, and then eventually you're gonna see that opportunities are passing by. So therefore, embrace that change. Know your priorities, and treat those tests in life that they are just trying to awaken us that we might not be on the right road. The collective and the social planets are always about, you know, karmic experiences. So the Saturn Uranus square is kind of the very last karmic reset button, which gets pushed in different ways. And you can get ready for the next conjunction, which is going to be happening sometimes in the next
2032.
2032, yes. So in the next 1 decade. So you have to embrace these changes, and this is kind of a chance for you to start doing that, 2021.
Yeah. So stay open, everyone, and let's see what comes.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending and listening to this video. If you like the video, then you know that you should press like. And if you would like a reading with Tsveti or myself, then please click the links below. And thank you, Tsveti, for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Viktor, for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.